So it was not. So I was not streaming for our last 15 minutes. I'm so confusion. I am confusion. But it's good because I was potentially just doing too much. But I'm hoping to have have a friend. It's so confusing, man. Bro. Yes, now I'm live. Broseph. I'm finally live. Jesus. Oh, no skin off my back. I think. No skin off my back. Did you know that this is a heart? Not because of this small part, but because of this is like actual heart. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? Okay. That bookmark is from the store Distill. Local store. Montreal that actually sells English books. Don't tell nobody. Say hello. Say hello. 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 Bonsoir. 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 Hi. What is this? What is this? What is going on? Come on. Oh no. Did I just close everything? And I don't know. Streaming is funny. Okay. I think it's happening. I think it's happening. I think it's happening. Oh, sheesh. Sheesh. Screaming is funny. Okay, okay. happening. I think it's happening. Oh, sheesh. Alright. Sheesh. Funny. I don't know if I should be waiting for anybody to start actual reading, but like might as well. No? I don't know if I should be waiting for clarify the actual reading, but like it should work now. No? I think. I think it should work now. Random person just messaged me on Telegram. They're so spam on Telegram and they're like, are you okay? I think I love when spam people actually ask you if you're doing well, you know? It's crazy. They're like, are you okay? How are you doing? Let me scam you. Some just message me on Telegram. There's the story on Telegram and they're like, are you okay? I love when spam people actually ask you if you're doing well, you know? It's crazy. They're like, are you okay? What is going on? How are you doing? People find scam you. Some just message me on Telegram. There's the story on Telegram and they're like, are you okay? I love when spam people actually care to if you're doing well. You just having a hard time finding. It's crazy. They're like, are you okay? Do I do that? What is going on? Why are you doing it? People find scam you. Some just message me on Telegram. There's the story on Telegram and they're like, are you okay? I love when spam people actually care to if you're doing well. Okay, I think we couldn't figure it out after all. They're like, are you okay? Do I do that? What is going on? Why are you doing it? People find scam you. Some just message me on Telegram. There's the story on Telegram and they're like, bro, this is good logistics. We're gonna get there. I think we're gonna figure it out after all. Okay. Sanded. I'm sanded. Sanded. I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna send the link. Bro, yeah. Like logistics. Yeah. We're gonna get there. Why not? Figure it out after all. Why not? If you can't find me, I'm gonna go ahead and send it. Be found or send it. help you to find. I'm gonna send the link. That's the idea. My first people here. Dang, we're gonna get this connection. We get there though. Why not? Get there. You can find me. I'm gonna go ahead and be found. Help you to find. I'm gonna send the link. That's the idea. My first people here. Dang, we're gonna get this connection. We get there though. Why not? Get there. You can find me. I'm gonna go ahead and okay, freak. Help you to find. I'm gonna send the link. That's the idea. My first. Okay. We get there though. Okay. We're in business. Today's too much. She's here. Yay. And the crowd goes. Okay. Mild. Thank you for your patience. I hope you are not hearing the fan sound, and if you are hearing some static, that you're not annoyed by it. Other than that, welcome to Just Relax. She's here. Today, I'm reading the diary of Anais. Anais. Thank you for your patience. And 1931, 1934, Volume 1. I'm in the middle of the book, but you're not annoyed. It is so wild. There is an echo. Dang. Welcome to Just Relax. She's here. How annoying is the echo? Today, I'm reading the diary of Anais. Anais. Hold on. Thank you for your patience. And 1931, so weird. 1934, Volume 1. I'm in the middle of the book, but strange. It is so wild. There is an echo. Dang. Welcome to Just Relax. She's here. How annoying is the echo? Today, I'm reading the diary of Anais. I think I do. Bro, but it's me on mute? It doesn't matter, bro. Okay, I'm gonna just gonna turn it off. 1931. That would explain it. Yeah. Volume 1. That would explain it, man. Okay. Is this better? Is this better? Yes. That would be crazy. Okay, yeah. Multiple reflections of mirror, like infinite reflections. True. I'm just blonde. Spiritually, sometimes I am blonde. Thank you. You're a magic worker. That wouldn't be fun for you, I guess. Anyways, my agenda is to read 26 pages of this book a day. And right now, I'm trying to finish it in a week before I fly to Vancouver. I did 19 pages or 20 pages a couple days ago. And don't worry about tuning into the meaning, because it's so wild that ultimate winner of the prose world, Anais name. And actually, I don't know if this was first written in French. I suppose it was since she was a French speaker, but she also learned how to speak English. So only God knows, but I am not good at French. Although she inputs French words sometimes. Anyways, let's get to it. That's how we get into it. First we get a little more distracted by the sound of pages. Also, my whole thing is like, on one hand, you are welcome to listen to me reading. On the other hand, you want to just do something else with me in the background, like also read or game or whatever. You know, do your thing. I love how this is the first sentence we are starting with. Anais, I'm sexually dead. I have burned myself out all into a great faith and a great illusion. Henry is losing even his manhood. I see by his embrace. I sense that it is not because he does not want me, but that he does not want any woman. Perhaps it is because he is writing so much. When I was writing my book on Lawrence, for 2 weeks my body was dead. Oh, it isn't that. I have seen him in that mood too. This is different. But I don't want to tell him. He's so crushed with complexes, I don't want to add another. Whenever June laments, however, I am aware that she is weeping over a dead Henry, that there is another Henry alive and happy. She complains that Henry has never given her any credit for anything. He's inhuman, perhaps, out of self-defense against her will. The absence of muscular structure in woman's mind makes Henry suspicious. But just before June came back, he was beginning to trust my intuitions. It is this kind of feminine thinking which psychoanalysis makes clear, and I am better able now to explain what I feel. June has a curious way of jumbling values, of mentioning in the same breath Dostoevsky and Greta Garbo, Proust and some village character like Max Badenheim. Literature for her is an adornment. Henry wrote, she wore it like plumage. But this knowledge I derived from Allende. She understands. Allende is Anaïs's psychoanalyst. At one moment, when she had spoken movingly of her faith and the wholeness of her love for Henry, I laid my head on her knees and said, June, I worship you. She answered, I don't want worship, I want understanding. Henry's cry, too, I want understanding. There is a shortage of understanding. It is as if I had lived my whole life from childhood on cultivating the one thing they needed, living within the meaning of everything, in preparation to receive this bulk of facts and experience and be able to understand it and to clarify it for them. And then I became aware of the atmosphere of her talk. It sounded like a testament, an abdication. Why? She was telling me what to do for Henry and what not to do. What intuition did she reach while she watched me talking to Henry? How little she understood Henry and herself, the hopelessness of their ever understanding each other. Did she become aware of the depth of my friendship with Henry? And was she relinquishing him because their discourse had become more and more violent? She mixed perfidious remarks with her generous ones, always in an effort to destroy Henry, the writer, for me as well as for herself. Was it protectiveness towards me which made her say, "Tonight you showed yourself wiser than Henry. Don't let him destroy your mind and your work. Remember that your work comes first." What a boss lady. June, that is. Well, Anais Nina's a boss, quite a boss herself. Was it feminine loyalty? Was it prophecy? Did she mean that Henry had destroyed her? This was different. They were lovers. But he can harm you as a writer, as he harmed me as a woman, by taking and never giving. The way that Henry Miller is painted in the light that he's painted in this book is not the best. Let's just say, I will never be able to write down all of that night, all of the words we said. It seemed to me that June was climbing into more facts. She's still awake. Dang, my laughter is like the loudest thing about me, but except on occasion, very rare occasion moaning, but we're not going to talk about that, right? Okay, let's continue. I will never be able to write down all of that night, all of the words we said. It seemed to me that June was climbing into more impersonal spheres that... Do you know much about Henry Miller? Or pattern as like some dude's patterns? Like narcissists. Or specifically Henry Miller. Anyways. Okay. Oh, I will never be able to write down all of the night, all of the words we said. Male patterns, yeah. Tell me about it. I hope your boyfriend is different. All of the words we said, it seemed to me that June was climbing into more impersonal spheres, that she was eliminating her personal jealousies, that she was accepting my friendship for Henry and his for me. June was wearing her hair loose. She sat on the edge of the bed and smoked. You are so young and so full of faith. Your body is so young, so slim, so white. I mean, it's just a book. Every statement that night carried a strange weight, a sadness, an admission, a defeat. I could sense a symbolic image haunting her. Oh, yeah, that's good. Communication is good, but he was raised in this society where he takes criticism. Well, I think that's the most important thing. Right. I could sense a symbolic image haunting her. Her own lost youth and freshness reappearing in me. I remember one of her phrases, uttered with desperation. Why do I have such a coarse, earthy body, Anais? I am not earthy and coarse. But June, Henry loves your earthy body. And I love you as you are. I want to be like you. So sapphic. She wanted as much to escape from herself as I wanted to inhabit her body, become her. We were both denying our own selves and wishing to be the other. Spicy. We talked until dawn, smoking. June pacing up and down at times. Exactly. Do you want to be like her? Or be her? No. Do you want to be her or want to be with her? Or both. Henry said, I have always fought a great deal, but there was a hub missing. And what was the missing hub? It was, as you said, an understanding of myself. It is your vision of me which keeps me powerfully together. You reject all the unimportant details. You never get confused as June does, and you give my acts and my experiences the correct proportion. End quote. When I saw him again, he was working on a synthesis, form and language, and I read the pages and he unwound them from the typewriter. We talked endlessly about his work, always in the same manner. Henry flowing, gushing, spilling, spreading, scattering, and I weaving together tenaciously. He ends by laughing at my tenacity until I reach a clear finality of some sort. I can't stop. I am always seeking the core, the hub, the center of all his chaotic and abundant ideas. I struggle to coordinate, to tie up loose ends. Henry is a mold breaker. He obeys the rhythms, as Lauren said, and all clear patterns can be damned. At any moment he can begin to rant, rave, fume, drink, and the continuity of his thinking is broken by the fermentations of his body. This is good. It gives him ability to everything, the ability of life itself. He accepts absurdities. He walked through the streets which Henry taught me to love. Water is being thrown on the sidewalks and swept by an old man with a broom. Dirt is floating down the gutter. Windows are being opened. Meat hung on hooks. Vegetables poured in baskets for display. Wheels are rolling. Bread is baking. Children are skipping rope. Dogs are carrying the weight of downtrodden tails. Cats are licking off bistro sawdust. Wine bottles are being carried up from the cellar. I love the streets I did not know as a child. I always played in houses in Neuilly, Brussels, Germany, Cuba. Neuilly. I think it's French. But then she talks Brussels, Brussels, Germany, Cuba. Henry played in the streets. His world was filled with ordinary people, mine with artists. Henry's recollections of the past, in contrast to Proust, are done while in movement. He may remember his first wife while making love to a whore, or he may remember his very first love while walking the streets, traveling to see a friend. And life does not stop while he remembers. By the way, so far, I have not seen any racist or homophobic remarks in her diaries. But sex worker is not an existent term at that point, so I don't know if I should replace it or just roll with it. It's colorful, I guess. Yeah. It's good. I mean, the fact that it's not racist or homophobic, and I haven't seen any other discrimination, but the words, the colorful language towards sex workers. I remember his first wife while making love to a sex worker. Or he may remember his very first laugh while walking the streets, traveling to see a friend. And life does not stop while he remembers. Analysis and movement, no static vivisection. Henry's daily and continuous flow of life, his sexual activity, his talks with everyone, his cafe life, his conversations with people in the street, which I once considered an interruption to writing, I now believe to be a quality which distinguishes him from other writers. In every writers. The red 2 pages already cooked. Okay, it's like 3 pages now. He never writes in cold blood. He's always writing in white heat. Oh my goodness. Writing with emotion. I feel like that's such a key. I feel like so many times when I was like, oh, I have to write about this, and then it would be too late. You know, like, if I don't feel the overwhelming thing for a lot of like journal entries, it just seems, why would I, you know? Let's go back to white heat, she calls it. It is what I do with the journal, carrying it everywhere, writing on cafe tables while waiting for a friend, on the train, on the bus. In waiting rooms at the station while my hair is washed, at the Sorbonne, when the lectures get tedious, on journeys, trips, almost while people are talking. It is while cooking, gardening, walking, or love-making that I remember my childhood, and not while reading Freud's preface to a little girl's journal. Oh? She says she never managed to journal. That's fair. Do you ever record voice memos for yourself? Huh? So romantic. I used to do that. Carry a journal like her with me. Nowadays, I don't know. It's like my journaling is more like practical or creative. I don't know, but going back to Freud, I think you don't have to keep up with it. I mean, some people are like, roll right every day, but I used to use it mostly for therapy, to be honest. Therapy and escapist poetry. I still cannot. Storyteller. That's great. That's what I would use also journal for, like to just jot down some ideas, right? Yeah. That's very admirable. Fiction, honestly, that's the most difficult for me. Like this lady, mostly wrote diaries and then some ideas from the diaries would become novels, right? I like that. That seems more approachable for me. I still can't get over Freud's whatever book this is named Preface to a Little Girl's Journal. I don't think Freud should have been reading little girls' journals. I don't think so. That makes me uncomfy. Henry teases me about my memory for conversation. Every now and then he says, "Put this down in your diary." He never says, as others do, "Do not put this down in your diary." Why would anybody tell her to not write something down in the diary? How dare they? Henry, good job. He says, "Put this down in your diary." Even his face is changing. Chad says, Freud shouldn't been doing a lot of things. Yeah, like snorting drugs up his nose, right? Putting that white powder up his nostrils and talking about, well, some incestuous stuff, I think, makes some sense in my mind, but uh, we can have a lot of critique towards Sigmund Freud, but the whole oral fixation thing, I'm not sure about that. Oh. What are we talking about? I'm out of I am confusion, but yeah. Even his face is changing. I was looking at him in amazement while he explained Spengler. No trace of the gnome or the sensualist, the gravity and intentness. What a great word, intentness. Talk about his work. I feel sometimes I have to hang onto the significance of it while he tosses about, fumbling, stumbling. Oh my god. That's genius. That's brilliant. My dear chat says, yeah, one of the things Freud should not have done, based the human experience on 12 Austrians of the upper class. Thank you. And were all of these Austrians male? My voice went up when I said male. Yeah. Yeah, Freud, I'm sure you have a lot to say as a psychology student. Yeah. Fred, not Freud, but Fred criticizes Henry's reading, his efforts to think, attacks his knowledge of science, interest in movies, in theater, in philosophy, criticism, biography. A big enough artist, I say, can eat anything, must eat everything, and then alchemize it. Only the feeble writer is afraid of expansion. Henry is fulfilling a deep necessity to situate himself, to adopt values, to seek a basis for what he is to build. I love it, my old fear of analysis. Since its 30s, I suppose Anais psychoanalysis has a lot of knowledge stemming from Mr. Sigmund Freud as well. So, but so far, I like some of what I read about their sessions. Maybe next time I can look for some sessions that I read before, not out loud, but prepare them for you, my friend. It's so interesting to describe your psychoanalysis sessions in your diary and then have people read it 100 years later. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Okay. Henry's fulfilling a deep necessity to situate himself, to adopt values, to seek a basis for what he is to build. I love it, my old. Fear of analysis, the possession of knowledge, does not kill the sense of wonder and mystery. There is always more mystery. I have no fear of clarity. Henry is lost in a labyrinth of ideas like an ostrich who has buried its head in a mountain of papers. He said I crumbled at the end of my 6-year war with June like a man unaccustomed to peace. Henry and June, the tumultuous couple. This diary is basically about their relationship. Alendi? That's Dr. Alendi. That means psychoanalyst. Psychoanalyst. Analyst? Okay. Alendi said, La fatalité se déplace plus l'homme plus l'homme prend conscience de lui-même, plus il la découvre intérieure. Something about, yeah, the tea. The French. I'm gonna write in the chat just in case our French-speaking friend wants to tell us what it is. She's busy with relaxing. I don't mind, but I'll write it in case that was not clear. Yeah, something about self-discovery, I think. Conscience, like conscience or conscience de lui-même. Lui-même. Plus il. Exactly. La. I know. Intérieur. Okay. I let Henry and June take care of my tough-minded self. Young. I don't know what's happening. Young. Nobody says Jong. It's Young. Young said, we must include both the tender-minded and the tough-minded within ourselves because we cannot permanently allow one part of our personality to be cared for symbolically by another. Okay, so the French phrase stands for the more a man becomes self-aware, the more he self-discovers. Yeah, Young. So the Young's thing was about both the tender-minded and tough-minded within ourselves because we cannot permanently allow one part of our personality to be cared for symbolically by another. I don't know if I agree. And it is Young, too, who observes that it is usual for a patient to endow the physician with uncanny powers, somewhat like a magician or a demoniacal criminal, or as the corresponding personification of goodness, a savior. Young also said, since we cannot develop backwards to animal consciousness, there remains nothing for us to do but advance into the more difficult pathway to higher consciousness. I like Young. Young is the guy. But maybe I don't know the tea. Is there any tea on Young? Dang. Henry writes me. Had a frightful night, went to bed exhausted about midnight. At 1 o'clock woke up and lay in a half-dream state till 5 a.m. Then fell into a stupor until 1 today. Dreamed the most horrible dreams, among them then I saw my own grave with a tombstone and a light shining on it. Am trembling. Don't know what ails me. Tried phoning you just now, but you were out. Feel terrible. Another night of this and I'd go completely mad. Jesus, I feel like Richard Osborne before he went mad. Oh yeah, Freud and Jung's fallout is the tea. I agree. I actually heard about it. That the tea was like about Jung not agreeing with the idea of unconscious and wanted it to be called subconscious. But it probably was more than that, right? Like maybe Freud was a dick. Yes, there was a love tunnel involved, and Jung came out of it yelling to Freud. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Love tunnel. I love that. I suppose when we're talking about love tunnel, we're talking about yoni. Vesica yoni. I think. Sometimes cigar is just cigar, which reminds me of René Magritte. Ceci n'est pas un pipe. Yeah, I don't know if you know. Maybe you know. I think I might even have that. The boats in the river. Do maybe I'll get it later. I'm just thinking if I have the surrealist thing. Yeah, not everything is a dick. Yes. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Bro. Oh, I'm so itching to get that book. Okay, I'll stay. Continue reading. Put you to sleep, hopefully, maybe. And then put a picture for upload as content. I'll put a picture as a for evergreen video. Put a picture of the Ceci in the pound peep. So love tunnel is a thing. It's not a innuendo. Okay, gotcha. Love tunnel is those couples right at places like La Ronde. Okay. December 1932. I never imagined when I gave Henry the money to escape to London that June would come the night before he left, take it all away from him. He writes me a week later. I'm angry, furious at myself. I'm leaving for London tonight. Fred came to the rescue. I'm leaving, so it won't happen again. I hate you. After a bitter, nauseating conversation, I feel humiliated, deeply ashamed. It was agony when I endured what I endured. And why I stood it, I don't know, unless it is that I have a feeling of guilt. June is beyond reason. She has become a mad woman. The vilest threats and recriminations. That is why I broke down and wept. She is capable of anything. She is terrifying in her violence. Henry can only fight in his books. In life he runs away. Now he is in London. I am raising money for June's ticket to New York, and she asked me for it. I am to leave it at the American Express. June is leaving a parting impression which is not beautiful. Emptying Henry's wallet, frightening Henry. Henry was stopped at the English frontier for carrying too little money, questioned, deported. He was wearing his shabbiest clothes. He told the authorities he was running away from his wife. In the cafe where we met, he broke out in talk about June. And two things stood out: his goodness, his real feelings, the weakness of the man. He is listening to June to the very end of all she had to say. Becomes, in the case of the writer, the passivity of the artist as spectator of life. Listening to June, he ceased to be a man who, should have silenced her. He became an investigator, listening to what a normal man would not have wanted to observe. I discovered the baseness of June through her anger. What was thrown into relief was her enormous egotism. Worse than that, tawdry. Tawdry? Tawdry. When she left me, she turned to say at the door, "And now you have your last chapter for your book." Ooh, the tea. Henry had tears in his eyes when he described this last scene. Tawdry. What an unexpected word to brand June with. This moment, Henry looked careworn, sad, profound. The vocabulary on this woman, though. Then he began to talk about D.H. Lawrence and Dr. Otto Rank's art and artist. His mind makes immense detours, then he gets lost, and then I am able to bring him back. Not because I got lost a little. Wow. Okay. Then I am able to bring him back, not because I know any more than he does or because I am more whole, but because I have a sense of direction in the world of ideas. Much that I am reading in Art and Artist helps me to confirm the intimations I've had about the artist. What efforts I'm making to understand. There are moments in Henry's talk when I feel truly tired, like a woman reaching for knowledge. It is always the big impersonal spaces which frighten me, the vast deserts, universe, cosmologies. How small my guiding lantern, how vast man's universe. It seems to me that what I hang on to is the human and personal. I do not want to enter impersonal, not human worlds. Is Henry right? Yo, I do feel kinda same. Like personal. I like personal. Is Henry right? He does not want to write a diary anymore. He thinks it is a malady, an outgrowth of loneliness. Don't know, it has also become the notebook of my extroversion. A travel sketchbook, it is full of others. It has changed its aspect. Oh, my sound is gone? Bro, no. Hello, hello, hello. What is going on? Okay, 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 okay. Let's see. I'm hearing the streaming software seems to be picking it up. What is going on? What is going on? Hello, 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 hello. Oh, the mic is fine. I don't know what's going on with my dear. Here. I shall continue reading though. The show must go on. There's plenty of reading to go, so I'll be here. Mm. Mm. It's working, I think. I'll do one more test to confirm. Do one test. It's working. Okay. Alright. Wait. Wait, what? Okay. It has changed its aspect. I cannot abandon it definitely. The diary, that is. Henry says, look up the journal and swim. What I would like you to do is to live without the journal. You would write other things. I would feel like a snail without its shell. Everyone has always stood in the way of the journal. My mother always urged me to go out and play. My brothers teased me, stole it, and made fun of it. It was a secret from my girlfriends in school. Everyone said I would outgrow it. In Havana, my aunt said it would spoil my eyes, frighten the boys away. Henry is sorting his numerous notebooks so that I may have them bound. His desk is covered with manuscripts. His books of reference are lined up before him. He is in his shirt sleeves. I bring a number of the Surrealist publication this quarter. Fred is typing too. Someone else is cooking in the kitchen. January 1933. In the Sorbonne lecture hall. My classroom atmosphere, chastity, seriousness. Madame Alendi is there, white-haired, blue-eyed, maternal, solid. 1928, Alendi and his wife incited the Surrealists to produce a film of a dream for Études des idées et tendances nouvelles. They found the money and director Germaine Dulac. She ruined the film. L'Âge d'Or contains some pieces of this film. From this incident, Alendi inferred that the Surrealists were insincere. It was for this group that he invited Adler, Einstein, Fernandez, Milhaud, Satie, Honegger, and Gris to speak. Maurice Sach, in his letter Memoirs, was to describe Madame Alendi thus: un beau visage de révolutionnaire de 89, grave, sûr, bon et intelligent. Son regard est superbe. Alendi comes out on the platform serious, austere. It is the first time I see him from a distance. He looks more furtive, more timid than in his office. He stoops a little, like a scholar bent long over books. One only sees his high brow and his crystal gazer eyes. His sensual mouth is hidden in his beard. I can hardly hear what he is saying. There's a conference on the metamorphosis of poetry. The words of a doctor, a professor, a scientist. He's dissecting poetry. It has become a cadaver. I carried the muff. It was all in fur head, face in a high fur collar. It was winter. I was sitting on a hard bench of the Sorbonne. I heard words. Science reductible, elements, fusions, pensée métaphysique, altitude poétique, antinomie provenant de la pensée statique. La poète inspire plus qu'il n'inspire. My arse. Yeah, I could work on them. I am but a silky fragment of a woman. She says that. It is freezing outside. There is an orange butterfly on my kilt. My diary lies there. This. If it too had wings, they would have stuck to the wine stains on cafe tables. But the only scar it bears of its expeditions into the world is a trembling handwriting when I write in the train. Note to Alendi. It is not only the cure of the individual, but that in curing it you reveal the worlds which lie beyond the ego. This liberation from the ego is what seems to me your most precious gift to me. It is only then one begins to love. It was after the shock of June's ugly behavior that I went to see Alendi again. I felt overwhelmed by reality. I told Alendi about my preoccupation with reality. When I collide with it, it was the behavior of June which I called collision. I seem to experience a sudden break. I feel I swing in space. I go up in the air. I create enormous distance. Then after the collision, I feel submerged into dreams. The realism of June, ugliness, and then I cease to live in reality. I feel that I miss it always. I am living either in a dream or in pure sensuality. No intermediate life. The overtones of the undertones or the undertones. And Alendi understands. Oh, tell me if you hear me. I have a cool little thing that Anais Lynn did with her doctor. That was crazy. Get into the blanket. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you this one funny thing. And then I'm just gonna continue reading so you can doze off. But, so Anais Nin wrote about one of the sessions with her therapist, Dr. Alendi, and how she, showed him her breasts because she was insecure about them. And then he was like, oh, you're so delicate, you're totally beautiful and stuff. I don't know what are you supposed to do in such a case. Yes, actually say put them away. I don't remember if you said that, but I thought it was amazing. Hilarious. Yeah. She suggested, she did it. I was like, I'm insecure about my small body. Tiny body. Oh, look at my boobs. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Continue. Put them away. Okay. Instead of seeking to help me, as I am talking in generalities, he begins to talk about his own madness. The doctor does. But his madness is on a different level. He tells me that at times he feels his house is haunted, that his dead father is always there. He believes that when he wants news of a friend who is far away, he needs only to open a book and read a phrase at random. He opened the manuscript of a friend and found Il avait de la fièvre, which turned out to be true of his friend, that he has fever. That is, Alendi believes in the tarot cards, in alchemy and astrology, but then he added, don't tell anyone as they will think I'm mad. This touched me, underlying the cautious doctor, the wise analyst, this occultism. He had a curious way of remaining silent, suspended, or never answering direct questions. How far does he go into these realms? I ask myself. There are times when he does not understand me, as when he said that I wanted to take drugs out of snobism instead of out of a real curiosity of my imagination. Yesterday I was trying to see him clearly from behind my shroud of heavy dreams. I liked his face when he talked about the book he was writing and his desire to find time to go to the Bibliothèque Nationale to look up data on alchemy. Alchemy. Wonderful books there were there. I liked him when he got up to investigate some noises and opened the door saying, "This is a house full of mysteries." That he should mention all this intuitive, disquieting element just when I looked upon him and his study, his books, his work, as a solid anchor in the middle of Dostoevskian instabilities and hysterias troubled me. The brutality of June had exiled me from my own world, and this one I had taken refuge in was not familiar to me. When I left Alendi, I met Henry and his friends at a cafe. As we sat down, I heard the street accordion music which pursues me everywhere. Henry began to talk about Boubou de Montparnasse and his own Boubou life, his bumming life, relation to wars, starvations, etc. He described his worn shoes, his desperations. Even though I'm not familiar with this life, I understand it. If there was a distance between the world of Alendi and myself, and less between Henry's life and mine, what was there between me and the formal dinner at a stately house to which I had to go afterwards, like the distance between planets? I had to struggle against the opium smoke of my dream to look at a ceiling doubly high, at candles doubly long, at the lace pattern of the tablecloth. The concert of crystal glasses on trays was like that of bells, heard and far off Swiss mountains early in the morning. I could not see the people. They seemed like engravings or paintings. I could feel my evening dress dragging on the gravel path. I saw a faceless chauffeur opening the well-oiled door of a car, the starched aprons of the maids like the sails of small boats, When the fur rug was placed over my knees, I wondered what drug I take with which makes ordinary superficial life invisible to me. I was still examining some of the stories I had told Alendi, examining them for loopholes, defects, for he had demanded I never see Henry or his friends or June again. I said I had broken with them. Could I deceive a professional analyst? The secret of my life must be that which makes for good acting. I never plunged into a lie carelessly, without first telling myself, how would I feel if this were true? How would I feel if I had broken with Henry's world? I start feeling and believing the situation. Also, I have learned transpositions. I borrow from the distress caused me by June's behavior and transfer this to the present. I am distraught. I am shocked by June. But it is simple to include in this a break with Henry for having submitted to June's attacks. I have sometimes wished I could break with Henry's world. My hands are cold. I show symptoms of distress. Alendi can check that, but they have a different cause. However, by this time, I have entered my own story. I feel as if I had broken my friendship with Henry and his friends and his cafe life, and I have for the space of an hour. And it is true, I need Alendi. It touched me humanly that Alendi could no longer be objective. Alendi said, "You had to do this, you were in great danger. I can tell you now that when I saw Henry at your brother's concert, he seemed a monster to me. It's your neurosis, which made you associate with June and Henry and their friends. You, such an extraordinary woman, like a fleur sur du fumier." Interesting. I laughed. Alendi thought I was laughing at the idea of a neurosis being the cause of my bohemian life. Alas, it was not that. Alendi's phrase, "a flower on a dung pile," belongs so much to the dime novels read by servant girls that the poet I am was offended by that, as another woman might be by a man talking with his cigar in his mouth and his hat on his head. The absurdity of the image the phrase concealed from my eyes, and the complete absurdity of Alendi's statement, because this was made with so much sincerity and devotion. But as soon as I left him, I thought, an analyst in love is as blind as anyone else in love. But to finish with my lies to Alendi, was he violent? He asked me. No, of course not, I said, wanting to laugh again at the idea of Henry's violence. Dr. Alendi, you are being taken in by literature. Henry's violent writing deceived you. You imagined Henry just as you imagined June, said Alendi. Oh no, I knew Henry very well. Be careful, Anais. Always use the past tense. He was a lucky man. He will never again have a friend like you. She keeps on lying to her analyst that she's done with Henry Miller. Why? I could not help join his post-mortem on my friendship with Henry. Alendi really believes that Henry was an illusion. Was. Alendi asked me about the diary. Is he uneasy? He wants to see it. I tell him I have written much less in it. That's a good sign. You are able to tell me everything. When I left Alendi after my web of lies, I was happy. I felt that Alendi was a wonderful personage. For a moment I felt that I had already broken with my bohemian world because I was unwilling to accept their way of life, and I walked carefree, lightly. It was only later that I regretted the lies, for lies create solitude. I needed someone to talk to openly, and by lying to Alendi I forced myself back into a terrible solitude. What could Alendi have done if he had known the truth? Withdrawn, been angry, He is so proud. He always said that no one could feel, that one could feel less, yet he cannot feel mine. He must think I'm a superficial person who can surrender an artist's life so easily. I think it's humorous that I should have gone to Alendi to get cured of a lack of confidence in my womanly charms, and that it should be those very charms he has succumbed to. What is most touching about Alendi is his mon petit. I don't know what she means by that here. He is not a poet, what a pity. It is just what I need. His supply of imagery and symbolism is limited. What am I asking for? Literature. Literature. My bread and wine. But I do know I'm surrounded by children and that I go to Alendi because I need someone to help me take care of my children. And the Sorbonne. Alendi talked eloquently about surrealism. Antonin Artaud, he tells me, is like his son, but he's still anxious about June, about my being in danger. He's pale and very tired. When he was 18, he went to war and was gassed. It affected his lungs permanently. When he was 4 or 5, he lost a nurse he adored. He looks very human, very sincere. But he does not understand the art, so I'm reading Rank's Art and Artist. He believes that my affection for him is only due to transference or projection. One always loves the person who understands you. I asked him if he was not suffering from excessive doubts or others' affections. He admitted that he suffered from a lack of affection and the need of it since childhood. The love he receives from his patients is not for him, the man, but for the healer. He wanted me not to need him anymore, to be weaned from him. Suddenly I realized the tragedy of analyst's life. It is that the control he exerts over life gives him the tantalizing power to enter others' lives, to share in their secrets, in their intimacy, knowing more than the husband, the lover, the parents, taken into the patient's very heart and body. But then he's only allowed to look, to be the voyeur, not to touch, not to be loved, desired or hated. My whole life was offered to him, but did not belong to him. When he first saw me, he thought how happy I would be with a woman like that. Today, he said, you're full of precious qualities. But he knows all the time that what creates the sense of a bond is his understanding. I felt that if I surrendered him or lost him by confessing I had not cut myself from Henry's world and friends, I would be losing the last of the idealistic men, the heroes, the protective, the scholarly, learned, dedicated men. Because Henry is no hero. He is the rebel, the warrior. He is made to inflict wounds, not to heal, protect, or to love. Henry writes me a note. Read nearly all the Nietzsche. You will like it. You will see what a great thinker you are. It fits marvelously with Rank and Spengler. It would be rudderless without Alendi. And who is to say whether the analyst is as much a victim of an illusionary affection as the patient? Who is to say that if the patient loves the doctor because he feels understood, therefore known, therefore loved, perhaps the doctor only falls in love with the patient because he is allowed this intimacy with a human being. He is allowed to peer at a body making love, into beds, into weeping feet, the cries of hunger, of fear, of sorrow. He is allowed to live another life, to rescue him, to feel the weight of his guilt, his confessions, to know his needs. He feels wanted, indispensable, intermingled, and interwoven with another. He can almost touch the body, whose every quiver and vibration he is permitted to know. Why should this love be any more illusory than the others? I have a feeling that the masochism of woman is different from that of man. Hers comes from her maternal instinct. A mother suffers, gives, feeds. A woman is taught not to think of herself, to be selfless, to serve, help. This masochism is almost natural to women. She is brought up in it. Patriarchy. Example set in the family by my Spanish grandmother. It is like the masochism of people brought up in the Catholic religion. It is my maternal instinct which places me in danger. Same. If only I could be freed of this quest for the Father. Father, Savior, God. Each contact with a human being is so rare, so precious, one should preserve it. Allende is now convinced it is illusory. And I, since he has confessed his insecurities, anxieties, need of love, feel I must convince him of the reality of my affection. So I telephoned him this morning. She's still here. Have any of your patients got the flu? So I may come instead? Henry, like Dr. D.H. Lawrence, had a healthy, troublesome, joyous mother who liked drinking, and a mother who was sharper, tempered, cleverer. Saul Collins says in his book on Lawrence, Naturalism and Mysticism chez Lawrence, that Lawrence sought to return to the Father by divinizing him as God, as a way to escape from woman and the worship of the mother. Henry does this by his cult of men of ideas, and his work is a struggle to triumph over woman, over the mother, over the woman in himself. I began our session by making Allende sit in the patient's armchair and by analyzing his omens as expressions of his lack of confidence in life and in love. I pointed out that he carried in him a projection of defeat which creates defeat he loved. I used all his formulas and his lingo on him. He said, I always wanted to be a magician. When I was young, I used to imagine I was a magician. Perhaps becoming an analyst was the modern expression of this need. I have missed all the joys and pleasures of life. There was always a veil between me and reality. I have never been happy with a woman. Her doctor says that to her. I was taking care of him, not he of me. It is a malady in me, perhaps, but I have never been a passionate man, never knew anything but tenderness for women. That's what her doctor continues to say. Okay. Henry is sitting, revising his novel. I see so clearly the aim, the mood, the temper of his work, that I am able to help him cut out extraneous material, change the order of chapters. I told him my theory of skipping meaningless details as the dream skips them, which produces not only intensity but power. He begins. Wednesday morning, I stood at the corner. I say, drop Wednesday. Drop the extra weight to achieve speed, the essential. A literature of cuts. His pages on ecstasy are the most fiery pages. I have ever read. A climax and ecstatic writing. I bow before them. There are times when he produces gigantic dissonances, and other times a kind of dadaism. He will make one assertion on one page, and on the next page he cancels out what he said and asserts the opposite. His pages on seismographic shock are marvelous. He runs from extremes of sentimentality to cold, monstrous madness. There are humorous scenes as we work, particularly when we proofread. Once I read aloud in a mechanical tone, looking for proof errors before and after the erection. ... The genital banquet. I read it as if it were first day the sun was shining. We laughed. Henry thinks only of his work. Self-portrait, later called Black Spring. No more whoring and vagabonding. The first half of his novel is all incident. The second is all ecstasy, rivers of poetry and surrealism issuing from the adventures, explorations, a fascinating completion. When I praise his writing for its power and explosiveness, he says he thinks the same of mine, a feminine revolution. We have much influence over each other's work. I on the artistry and insight, on the going beyond realism, he on the matter, substance, and vitality of mine. I have given him depth, and he gives me concreteness. Yesterday I suggested a change in the order of the last two chapters because one was slow, human, sentimental, not too well written, the other mad, brilliant, and I felt this one was the climax. Henry often produces without any artistic consciousness. He also refuses to evaluate or throw out as I do. He is uncritical. I believe in impulse and naturalness, but followed by discipline in the cutting. I am merciless on his childish rantings. He has a folder of pages I have extracted because they were just tantrums, as I said. Everything petty, over-realistic. His fights with June over the value of Greta Garbo. I say, have bigger fights. When he is irritated, he produces a petty literalness. He stops to rave against June's cold creaming. He describes this as an attack upon American women. It is all cheap, like a newspaper report on what do you think about platinum blondes. I would not let him make the faults of bad taste which marred Lawrence's work, bad taste and bad temper. I only act as an analyst, helping him discover himself, revealing to him only his own nature, desires, aspirations. He helps me by always asking me to say more, to write more, assertively, to clarify, expand, to be strong. The first time Jean came to Louisiana's, all I noticed were her eyes, the distress in them, the wild swimming of the pupils in their orbit. She was tall, blonde, she looked like Danielle Dario, with less softness of contour, a more austere quality. She limped, she dragged her leg, and she talked continuously. I hate to see my brothers as bodies, to see them growing old. Once I saw writing a letter in a room. Once I sat writing a letter in a room, and the two of them were playing cards. I looked at them and thought, what a crime that we should be alive. It is a simulacrum. Everything was finished long ago. We have lived already. We are far away from our husbands, wives, children, friends. I have tried so hard to love, and I can, up to a certain point, and then no further. We were sitting in the back of the garden, where trees, bushes, flowers, ivy all grow wildly, and a small trickle of water runs under a small Japanese bridge. Her husband was visiting the house and talking with other friends. Jean was so restless, her eyes tossing like miniature ships at sea, that I offered to walk through the forest. We walked over a thick carpet of pine needles, and she talked. I have no human sympathy. I suffer neither pain nor feel joy either. I am only aware of my brothers. I know only fear, that great fear which makes me stay away from the theater, from reading, from analysis, from any avenue of realization, of clarification. I want to preserve my divorce from reality, and yet I know that at times this divorce is so absolute that I step into madness. I reach moments when I become deaf to the world. I stand in the street and I see the automobiles passing and I hear nothing. I stamp my feet and hear nothing. I ran into a bar and asked the woman serving drinks a question. I saw her lips moving, but I could not hear the words. I was terrified. I might be lying on my bed, and his great fear invades me. I begin to knock on the floor or the wall to break the silence. I knock and I sing until the fear passes. As we walk, she breaks off branches and listens to the dry sound of the break. She said, Passons à une nouvelle forme d'exercice. She became aware of the quality of my listening. You listen to silence, yet no one feels you never pass judgment. What do you do when you are defeated? But she did not wait for my answer. She stops on the path to catch her breath. I may be shaking hands, and suddenly the person recedes into the other room, and I see my hand miles away. I am in my own room, amused. Word amused is the key word to her social world. In her world, everything must be amusing, piquant. The stability, the gravity of her husband is also amusing. His dependency on clocks, his methodical reading of newspapers, his unbreakable engagements, his important business trips. What made him venture into the esoteric, mysterious, impregnable, inhuman citadel of my brothers and me? Tragic marriages for the women who married my brothers too. They feel like outsiders. We do not feel their sorrows, or who they are. They merely human beings, banal, little human beings, baffled and defeated by emotions, by our lack of sympathy, unable to share our anachronistic exaltations, our search for ecstasy. She said as she left, Come and see me. We will practice rhabdomancy. Jean's house was a castle where one met. I have spent years exploring all the rooms filled with antiques. She whisked me through them as she did not want my attention caught by furniture. Brocades, candelabras, screens, rugs. She took me to her room, which was all white. Curtains, rugs, bedspread, cluttered, shuttered, with the only note of color coming from orient blue bottles. Her room did not seem part of the castle. Next to it was the children's room, the room they occupied as children, with the small beds, small chairs, small tables she had described, where they came in time of trouble. The toys were still there, scattered, stamp collections, circus horses, dolls, trains, colored balls. Don't turn away from your fears, said Jean. You don't laugh at them. I'm a writer, Jean. I don't want to frighten away any of the ghosts. I want to know them well, intimately. I have to be able to describe them. I write too. I read her writing. It was so light, so frivolous, so shallow. It was like her life in society. A masquerade. She does not write as she talks. I saw the lightness and the masks, the leaps into space, even into madness, as ways to outdistance the unutterable incest. Nuptials in space, like some insects, violent fight, faithful to the first bonds, the first selves, then the first unity of childhood passions. To the poets, insanity seems closer to divinity than sanity. The madman arrives as death not by human progression, disintegration of cells, but by a series of holocausts. Joan of Arc, roasting at the stake, was perhaps in no greater pain than Jean seeking to leave the romantic world of Byron which no longer existed. This family had exhausted in 5 generations the ordinary joys of fame, fortune, beauty, intelligence, voyages, honors, genius, debauch, power, living for heirs who could only love each other. As we walked swiftly through the rooms, a servant rushed towards Jean to intercept her. Monsieur de Saint-Exupéry is waiting for Madame. She led me into the salon. He sat by the fire. He had a round, pale face, dark but soft eyes, and a body not too tall and rather plump. He had a calm manner and spoke gently to Jean. He seemed to be dreaming. The car which had brought me was waiting and I had to leave. As I sat in the car, Jean's brother came out. He leaned over formally and kissed my hand. Mes hommages, madame, mes hommages, madame. As the car drove me away, I caught a glimpse of the stately house, concealed gradually by enormous old trees. Remembered Jean's words. I left to feel an unfamiliar world, disoriented, uprooted. I left to go out with an ordinary man who says banalities, who wants to offer me a silver fox and makes me feel like a capped woman. Her house reminded me of the house in The Wanderer of Alain Fournier. Poisson d'or, goldfish, Tsigan, aristocratic Russian women, beautiful with 2 wealthy men, 7 bottles of champagne, ordering gypsy singer to sing for them at their table. Yeah, Tsigani is a word for gypsies in Russian. I know that's not a word people use anymore for really a lot, I think, for public correctness. Unless it's like actual, like, Romanis? Or are you supposed to say Romanis anymore? I don't know. Anyways. Ordering gypsy singer to sing for them at their table. Russian painter sitting in front of me, stares at me. When I dance with my escort, we collide and he kisses my neck. Orgy of singing and dancing. The 3 Russian women weep quietly with enjoyment. Voluptuous satisfaction. The painter and the host almost fight because a man breaks lumps of sugar while the gypsy sings. Musicians sing and dance for the angry man as if to soothe him. The painter smiles softly at me. Lady in white also begins to dance in front of him. The painter is whisked away by his partner who makes a scene. Irony. The deep emotional music going on. The feeling that when I handed my coat at the check room, I handed over my identity. I become dissolved in the atmosphere into red curtains. Champagne, ice, music, singing, the weeping, which the Russians love to do. The caress of the painter's eyes. Everything sparkles and exudes a warmth and a flowering. I am not like Jean, fragmented into thousands of pieces. I am at one with a sea of sensations, glitter, silk, skin, eyes, mouths, desire. I wanted to be back in Henry's kitchen. Henry in his shirt sleeves, salting the pâté de foie gras with a faux pas, steam on the windows, the smell of cauliflower, the warmth, Henry's voice filling the room with resonance, elbows on the table, the cigarette holes in the oilcloth. I stand before each new world, new person, new country, hesitant, unsure, hating new obstacles, new mysteries, new possibilities, of pain, of blunders from lack of courage. Fear, lack of confidence, has narrowed my world, limited the people I have known intimately, the difficulty of communion. Je vous présente mes hommages, madame. Politeness like a shield, culture is a shield, the world of my father, Henriette is the world of my mother. I read Jean's manuscript, which is touching but thin, shallow, vague. Fairy tale. In dreams too there is maturity, growth, depth, power. A long travail. I would like to take her by the hand and lead her. Her hair alone, melisande, hair loose, her mouth open, her eyes dilated, her skin fair and pale. We're back into Sapphic lands. Elle vivait d'elle-même, she writes. I hear her deep voice singing Brazilian songs accompanied by her guitar. I Georgian prince, Maghreb, fell in love with Jean, Lucy, and I urged her to give herself. I analyzed her lyrically, poetically, fantastically. Jean sits curled up on the couch and looks unreal. She talks about wanting to give Maghreb magic gifts, and she complains that he utters only perfectly ordinary phrases. Then I experience a strange pain and jealousy of not being a man, for I would know what to say to Jean, how to court her dreaming heart. But I sit very still now. Jean looks mysterious, elusive, unsizable. She went out one Christmas morning with a Christmas tree tinsel rolled around her neck many times, and carrying a glass bird perched on her little finger. Of course she met a white Russian taxi driver, and of course he understood and would not charge her for the trip, and of course she wrapped the tinsel necklace around his neck, clasped the bird on his mitre, and gave him 50 francs. We planned an accidental meeting with Prince Maghreb. Accidental quotation marks. Jean, her husband, and I would go to the Hermitage Moscovite. We would let the prince know, and he would happen to be there with a friend. But when the prince came to our table, acting surprised, I saw the eyes of Jean's husband flare green with jealousy and suspicion. He suspected us all rightly of treachery. Held music, champagne. Jean breaking 3 glasses of champagne as she would break her marriage. I danced with Prince Maghreb, a very dark, tall, quiet, stupid man, but sensual in every motion he made, dancing, or lighting a cigarette, or drinking champagne as if he were drinking you. Using his fiery eyes like a hypnotist, resting them on you. The black long hairs on the wrist, the bronze skin, and saying little, never dispelling the mystery, the suspense of what his eyes were saying. I saw the eyes of Jean's husband on us. She had told him it was I who was interested in him, and I felt uneasy. Eyes of the world. Jean's eyes floating like water lilies on a cloudy pond. She is drunk with defiance, hatred, destruction, the joy of destruction. Eyes of her brother caressing me. Eyes of Jean's husband ransacking my conscience. You betrayed me. You watch as Jean, who is exalted, breaking more and more glasses. We dance. I am stricken with compassion, for I know Jean is trying to break out of a prison, but I fear this no Prince Maghreb will help her. The Georgian prince is dancing a folk dance alone on the floor, wild like the Cossack dances as he utters chilling battle cries. One can well imagine him on horseback, with sword and forehead, and I remembered at this moment Jean's children explaining to a stranger where their mother went out so much. Father is very boring. He reads his papers all the time. We're alone in a nightclub at 2 in the morning, and the musicians are tired, but Jean is demanding. A Georgian dance, a rumba, a waltz, more champagne. The eyes are revealed in the flare of matches, lighting cigarettes. Eyes of Jean full of drunkenness, the princess eyes heavy, torpid, without dreams, waiting like a banked fire only for the moment of love-making to burn. Eyes of Jean's husband suspicious, the eyes of her brother mocking. I sit between them, and I feel the union of their minds, the synchronization of all their gestures, pride, affectation, arrogance. And while he says to her, "Take a lover," and she pushes me into his arms and over, but understudies the prince and I, eyes like brimming glasses, foaming, the love of others, an intrusion but necessary, to divert the attention of the world away from their unbreakable child marriage, a union without organs, members, roots, like those of fishes, promiscuity of eyes, of language, twinship. They were married long ago, in their children's room, at some children's game and ceremony, as the enfant terrible of Cocteau. Henry writes me, "Yesterday I bought you a rebours, and afterwards had a great attack of conscience. What have I ever bought you? Why, when I got that check from Dr. Corazon, didn't I cash it and get you something? I'm always thinking of myself. I am, as June said, probably the most selfish person in the world. I am amazed at my own selfishness. When I bought the book, I felt like a worm. So little. I could have bought you the bookstore and handed it to you, and it would be nothing." Romantic. Okay, February 1933. And I am how many pages away from my goal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. Very good. Okay, February 1933. I want to live only for ecstasy, small doses, moderate loves, all half shades, leave me cold. I like extravagance. Letters which give the postman a stiff bag to carry, books which overflow from their covers, sexuality which bursts the thermometers. I am aware also that I am becoming June. Alenti tells me about the research I can do for him at the Bibliothèque Nationale. He said, "You see everything as a poet." Was it a reproach? He said, "You remind me of Antonin Artaud, only he is fierce and angry, and I cannot help him. The man who is only half a magician is coming first tonight, as I could not, or would not, picture him taking a taxi, going to the Gare Saint-Lazare, buying a railroad ticket to Louisiane, landing at the small shabby station like an ordinary man. I told him that a friend had loaned me a car and chauffeur, and he would be driven from his house to my house magically. I told him it was the car of the Countess Lucy because he had been fascinated with my description of her. I wanted to create a journey like the journey of the wanderer to the house in the forest where there was a masquerade going on, poetry. Then I took almost all of my month's allowance and hired a car for the evening. Alendi came. He was enchanted with the house, the garden. We sat downstairs by the fire in the small salon. In this setting of sensuous colors and textures, he seemed out of place. A leaping joyous fire glowed in the fireplace which I had found, and the arts decorative, and was made of Moroccan mosaics in a rich design of blues with a few touches of gold. Alendi admired it like something exotic. The reflections of the fire played upon it, on the peach-colored walls, on the dark wood, on the wine bottles from Spain. The 200 years of the house had given it a look of sinking into the ground comfortably. It was not an illusion. It had settled, and the angles of the ceiling and walls were slightly askew. The bedroom particularly had a slant to the ceiling, so marked that at times, looking out of the window, the tilted frame gave one the sensation of being at sea. Alendi admired everything. He was amazed at the solidity of the setting I had created outside. It gave the impression of an ephemeral, fleeting creature, not at home in the world and about to vanish. The house made him see me as a human being. At 18, he confessed, I wanted to commit suicide. Oh, we're not supposed to say that word. I wanted to commit unalivingness. My mother gave me a distorted idea of women, just as my father gave me the idea that all men were selfish, incapable of love and faithful. Then, to prove the exactness of the image, 6 people who match this image corroborate the assumption. Corroborate this assumption, this generalization, and how wonderful it is to acquire an objective knowledge of others. Van Alendi says, I am cold and grey. I sense the obscure, buried, sunken, eclipsed man who was stifled by his mother. No one was ever born without that light or flame of life. Some event, some person stifles or drowns it altogether. I was always tempted to resuscitate such men by my own joyousness or luminosity. Bingo. Same. When I break glasses at a nightclub, as the Russians do, I have never intentionally broken a glass. Actually, I don't know if it's fully true, but not in such a setting. When my unconscious breaks out in wild rebellions, it is against life which has crippled this idealistic, romantic man. I respect this man, cold, pure, faithful, devoted, moral, delicate, sensitive, and unequal to life, more than I respect the type-minded ones who return free blows to one received, who kill those who hurt them. Yet, I would have loved D.H. Lawrence rather than intellectual Huxley. But each time I take the side of the primitive man, I turn my back on half of myself. Alendi can see with his seer's eyes. He lacks poetry, extravagance, the power of ecstasy. But he was won as an analyst. He has won as an analyst because he made me understand something very important, whether because I am Latin or because I am neurotic. I have a need of gestures. I am myself expressive, demonstrative. Every feeling I have takes own expression. Words, gestures, signs, letters, articulateness, or action. I need this in others. But Alendi says the need of gestures, of proofs of friendship, love, devotion, comes from lack of confidence. I should not need them. I should be able to dispense with them. Proofs of love and friendship are what I give to others all the time, and everyone seems to need them. He admired my aquarium with its fish and plants made of glass. I asked him if I could give him one for his birthday on the 19th, and he accepted. When Alendi left, I could not sleep. I was retracting the entire course of my life in the light of his words and discovering new interpretations. I had always seen my father as cold, sadistic, cynical, fault-finding. Perhaps there was another image I had missed. The day he was about to beat me after beating my two brothers. Because of the look on my face, he let me alone, almost tenderly, actually moved. Was he really moved? Did he beat us because Spanish fathers believe in beating their children? Because he himself was severely beaten by his father, a military man? Another day, when I was gravely ill, he brought me a compass and brought his work to do by my bedside. His letters from France, when I lived in New York, aged 12, 13, were loving. I could not tell Alendi that Henry had bought me a present, because he has said, I hate Henry because he is a barbarian. The barbarian is the type of man I must hate. The barbarian bought me a present, yet a friend of his put him in a novel as a callous, anarchistic, destructive drunkard and adventurer. I was badly analyzed, said Alendi, and I tried all these years to finish the job myself. I plied him with questions. He said, I always thought that one had to deserve love. I worked so hard to merit it. This phrase was so much like what I often write in my diary. The idea of deserving love, and then watching love being given to people who did nothing to deserve it. Les Criminels by Ferdinand Bruckner, done by the EP.2. The play shows a complete house of 3 floors and what happened on each floor, each room simultaneously. The showgirls did that. If anybody's here, maybe you've seen Girls. Maybe they did this play later in the seasons when Adam finally got his acting break. Anyways, when the action is strong, the spotlight is on that one room while the other scenes are in semi-darkness and the actors whisper. I was immensely moved by it, not so much by the theme of the blindness of justice. A very different kind of crime takes place on each floor, and all of them are judged by the same law, as the same crime, and by simultaneity of life being lived in various rooms, levels, at the same time. Yeah, I feel like that might be the same play. I don't know. The same process takes place in life constantly, layers, levels. I come down from the studio where I have been fixing the aquarium for Alendi's birthday to answer a telephone call from Jean about our evening, and I return to my open niche marked by Henry while the radio plays on, and I open another of Margaret's cramped, timorous letters like a man walking on stilts, while Emilia brings me the electrician's bills to pay and asks me to telephone for coal, and all this time I'm remembering Madame Alendi trying to charm me last night by her artistry in her home. She designed a gigantic pearl in the center of the dining room table which gave off a interplanetary light. She forces the tulips open until they look like exotic flowers, whose name I asked, but she complained that the armchairs had not lasted 10 years, as the upholsterer had promised, and asked me if I did not think that too short of a period. I answered that I had never been able to test the lifespan of an armchair that long because I had traveled and changed home constantly, and that, entre nous, I did not want an armchair to last that long. The dinner was for the purpose of my meeting Bernard Steele, the publisher of Antonin Artaud. He wanted to meet me because he liked my book on D.H. Lawrence, but he made mocking remarks about Lawrence, a man who never saw the sunshine in life. To which I retorted, he was a miner's son. You're terribly interested in Lawrence? Not so much now, he does not need defending anymore. Steele gave me a small book by Artaud, Letters to Rivière. That was supposed to be English too. Letters to Rivière. The next day I arrived with the aquarium, the creation of a glass blower, everything of glass, the colored stones in the bottom, the fishes, the plants, the coral, the caves. I unpacked the pieces and set it up for him. How Alendi loved the glass sheep, the stones, the color of his eyes, the lights placed so that one could not see them, only as radiance from the fishes themselves. His eyes, they were human with pleasure. The ship had foundered on the semi-precious rocks. Alendi said, I always wanted so much to travel. I liked hearing your description of Dea in Mallorca. And now? Oh, now there's nothing new to see. We are familiar with every place with the movies and with books. There only remains the moon to be explored. Have you ever thought of the moon? It is too far away. I am still interested in so many places right here, all around me. It is not places one wants to explore, but one's joys, surprises, responses to a rich world. I am not satisfied with Blaise and Darar's descriptions of South America or Siberia or with films either. I want to see for myself. I want my own feelings and visions. Alendi's detachment from life frightens me. He's dying. I don't want him to die, I said to myself. It is dangerous to hold man back from death. I want to give him life and adventure, but I cannot convey to him that it is the moon, nor the places, the relationships which can light up the shabby hotel rooms, stained cafe tables, brimming noisy streets, sour wine. I met Sadkin, the sculptor of wood figures. I think it's Sadkin. We went to his little house behind an apartment house on the Rue d'Assas. There are two small houses with a garden between them. In one he lives with his Russian wife, in the other are his sculptures. There are so many of them that look like a forest, as if so many trees had been growing there and he had carved them into a forest of bodies, faces, animals. The different qualities of the woods, the grains showing, the various tones, weights, make one feel there is much of the tree left in them. Women carved out of bamboo, slaves in joyless slavery, faces cut in two by the sculptor's knife, showing two sides forever separate, eternally two-faced, truncated and decagonal figures in veined and vulnerable woods. Fragments of bodies armless and headless. Page 178. I am done for today. It was pretty grand. Oh, yeah. Even with whispering, I'm feeling getting. My throat is getting sore. Yeah. But either way, hope the sounds were good. I hope the sounds were good. If you made it this far, comment a crown emoji. Or something else. Anyways, thank you for joining my journey. And I hope you go and enjoy yours. If you were here live and missed some part, this will be uploaded as regular content. A secret that only my OG cuties will know that waited this long.